Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 3. We will be presenting on the Shariah Audit Program on IMAT and ITAP. First of all, my name is Aini Akilah binti Fabil. My metric number is 1180729. The bank that we have choose are KFH Malaysia, which is Kuwait Finance House Malaysia, and the product we have choose for IMAT and ITAPs are KFH Ijarah Muntahiyah Bitamlik Asset Acquisition Planning I and KFH Ijarah Automobile I. Next. On the first audit objective, our product is offered and comply with all the BNM requirements, applicable laws and regulations. Audit criteria. Based on the audit criteria, we have referred on the BNM guidelines on product development and also policy document for Islamic products for both product that we have chosen, which is product disclosure sheet. Risk associated are Shariah compliance risk, which is risk that related to potential non-compliance with Shariah rules and the principles in the bank operation. Next, on the key control, product is offered based on the relevant guidelines. Comment or advice and sign off is obtained from the relevant second line different parties prior to the approval process. And approval is sought from the relevant authorities including Shariah Committee and BNM prior to launching of the product. And last but not least, on this first audit objective are audit tasks and or steps that have been taken, which if we have reviewed the structures of products against guidelines issued by SACBNM and minutes of meeting of SC on leasing and buying contract. Next, review the advice given by relevant parties prior to the approval process. And last but not least is review the approvals of products by respective approving authority, including approval by the Shariah Committee. That's all for me. I will pass to the next presenter. Thank you.
My name is Nazira Aziz. My metric number is 1180719. The audit objective number 2 is the modes of ownership on the property at the end of the lease period. The audit criteria following on BNM Ijrah Guideline number 22 and the policy document for Islamic product. The risk associated is an event of default by lessee or breach of the term and conditions specified in the wa'ad documentation by the lessee. The key control is to ensure the bank must assess and opt for the exit strategy that will minimize the losses or maximize the value from the Ijrah transaction to the bank. First, for example, if there is an event of default, ensure that KFH Malaysia shall be at liberty to sell the asset either by way of auction or by private treaty to a third party. Second, ensure the customer shall be liable for any shortfall between the asset price and the proceeds raised from the auction or private treaty sale of the asset and any late payment charges. Other than that, if the customer terminate the Ijrah agreement before the expiry of the lease term, the key control is to ensure the customer continue to pay the remaining monthly lease rental amount which is fixed throughout the financing period or tenure. The audit tasks are: first, review the structure of product against issue by SACBNM. Second, review and monitor the product disclosure sheet. Third, review the effective communication with external parties such as customers, supplier, regulators and shareholders. Last but not least, ensure that the documentation mention detailed information about the product such as nature, term and condition, about the wa'ad and etc.
Assalamualaikum and hi. My name is Nur Afifah binti Arifin. My metric number 1180724. I will continue the presentation with testing objective number 3, which is purchase price of the leased asset. For the audit criteria, BNM Guidelines number 22.6 under purchase price and the document for Islamic product. Next, the risks associated are market risks, which a lessor or bank is exposed to the carrying value of the leased asset as collateral in the event that the lessee defaults on the obligation. For the credit risks, the potential on financing exposure on receivables and leases. In addition, the key control for IMAT ensure that the KFH Malaysia's base rate is computed based on its retail marginal cost of funds plus the statutory reserve requirement, cost imposed by Bank Negara Malaysia except ITAP financing. While for ITAP, ensure that KFH Malaysia monitors customer monthly lease rental payment and the vehicle is well maintenance during the financing period or tenure. Finally, for the audit test or step, first, identify and analyze the structure of the product against issued by SAC BNM. Second, monitor and review the product disclosure sheet. Third, review on ITAP and IMAT operating performance. That's all from me. I will pass to the next presenter.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Aiza binti Zari, metric number 1180721. Okay, now let's move to the next objective. The next objective is transfer of right and liability to another party. The audit criteria for this objective are BNM guideline number 22.7 and 22.8. And other audit criteria is policy document for Islamic product. Next is risk associated. There are two risks that we could identify, which are an event of default by the lessee or breach of terms and conditions specific in the warrant documentation by the lessee. Next is key control. Under this key control, there are two risks, which are event of default and termination of Ijarah agreement. Under the event of default, Shariah audit program will ensure KFH Malaysia shall be at liberty to sell the asset either by way of auction or by private treaty to a third party, and ensure the customer shall be liable for any shortfall between the exercise price and the proceeds raised from the auction or private treaty sale of the asset and any late payment charge. Under the termination of Ijarah agreement before the expiry of the lease term, the Shariah audit program will ensure the customer continue to pay the remaining monthly lease rental amount which is fixed throughout the financing period. And that is audit test or step. It will be done by review the structure of product against issues by SACBNM, review and monitor the product disclosure sheet, and lastly, review the effective communication with external parties such as customers, suppliers, regulators, and shareholders. Okay, that's all from me. Let's move to the next presenter.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Shariah binti Ismail with number matric 1180746. Next, I will continue to the next objective. Ensure that the completion of the lease asset is compliant with all BNM requirements, applicable law, and regulation. For the audit control, we can refer to the BNM guideline number 22.11 in the part of completion. And we also can refer to policy document for Islamic product. For the risk associated in this objective is operational risk. The management ensure adequate system and controls to ensure compliance with Shariah rules and principles. And for the key control in this objective, there are two, which is for early settlement charge and legal action. For the early settlement charge, we must ensure that the contracting parties fulfill their respective obligations under the Ijarah contract and the ownership of the lease asset is transferred to the lessee at the end of the period. While for the legal action, we must ensure that the lessee paid the monthly rental payment amount according to the agreed timeline of the payment. Any outstanding amount due may occur legal action taken by the lessor against the lessee. And last, for the audit step in this objective is we must review the structures of the product against issued by the Shariah Advisory Council BNM. We also must review and monitor the product disclosure sheet and review on ITAP and IMAT operating performance. So in conclusion, Shariah Audit Program focuses on audit process and step for the audit exercise. It is industry practice to have several audit programs for various departments, products, policies, branches, and so on. It is common to design an audit program for each product offered and based on the audit assignment. That's all from us. Thank you.